I lost my granddad at age 8, and after a year my grandma married again, but not to give birth, just for companionship. But this decision made my life a living hell. At age 9, I lost my virginity to my step-granddad and have been traumatized since then. My name is Anna, first daughter of 2. My parents were never around. They were always traveling around for business. My grandma would always go to the market to sell her vegetables and tomatoes. I and my sister started taking care of ourselves from a tender age. I am 2 years older than my sis. So when my mom and grandma isn't around, I would be left with the responsibility of taking care of Gabrielle, my little sister. We lived in the family compound at Maryland, in Lagos, Nigeria. When I clocked 9, my parents threw a small party for me. Even though they were trying to cover up for not being there for me and my sis, I wasn't happy. I never felt loved. I always felt we were restricting our parents from exploring and being wild. According to my mom, she said that she got pregnant out of wedlock and was forced to move in with my dad. They didn't do a proper wedding. The 2 families just came together to perform the traditional rites. In the marriage, they decided to just take responsibility for the baby. Along the line, they grew in love and decided to become intimate, and that led to the birth of my sister. They then decided not to give birth again. My parents were really bad at parenting. As a girl of 9 years, I could take care and show my little sis the love that my mother was supposed to show her. When my grandma married my grandpa began to take up the role of being a father to my sister and I. At first, I wasn't comfortable with him because I was not used to being loved or being showed love. He would wake up early to prepare our lunch break for us and also dropped us off at where we would take the school bus to school. He would also make dinner and wait for us after school at where the school bus would drop us to escort us home. Gradually, we loved our grandpa and became very free around him. We never cared about our parents again. Grandpa would always read us bedtime stories and pet us to sleep. I thought finally we were happy until my 9th birthday. After the celebration, my grandpa told me he had a gift for me, and I was so happy. I really cherished Grandpa's gift than the party and gifts my parents gave me. He gave me a necklace made of white beads with my name crafted on it. I really loved the gift. 3 nights after my birthday, my parents were out of town as usual for business, and my grandma had a vigil in church, and she took my sister along with her. I was alone at home with my grandpa, and that night is my worst nightmare. My grandpa came into my room and I thought he wanted to read bedtime stories as usual, but instead, my grandpa made some funny advances on me, and when I started getting uncomfortable, I complained and told him, "Grandpa, please Grandpa, don't do this. I see you as my biological granddad. Why are you doing this?" But that night I saw a different version of my granddad. His eyes were looking at me very differently. I was scared and shivering all over. When I tried to shout, he covered my mouth and gave me a slap, asking me to shush. He forced himself inside me. My memories from that night were filled with pains and sorrows. I couldn't sleep all night. I was feeling sour at my woman area. After he was done, he told me that no soul outside must know about this. He threatened that if not, he will take my life, and definitely no one would believe me even if I tried. I hated my parents and cursed the day I was born into this family. Seeing this side of my grandpa made me protect my sister from him. I would always make sure she was never alone with my grandpa, and she should never sense what was going on. Grandpa kept on taking advantage of me for more than 5 years. One day, at age 11, I was tired of satisfying Grandpa's urge. I decided to tell my mom. I cried telling her to put my sister and I in a boarding school because my nights were always full of nightmares. My mom called a family meeting and asked me to say it in front of my grandpa and everyone. I did, even crying, but my innocently looking grandpa shouted at me and told everyone that he had taken it upon himself to care for my sis and I. What wrong has he done? Listening to his words made me bitter and angry. My parents didn't believe me but scolded me for bringing up such a ridiculous story. My grandpa looked at me mockingly, and the next time he did it as a punishment, causing all my thighs to burn and pain me. Out of that pain, I cursed my parents, crying. At 13, I started my period, and I knew this was another phase. Just as I hoped, at 15, I got pregnant. When my parents discovered, they asked me several times who was responsible. I told them it was Grandpa. They still didn't believe me. Then they flogged me so hard and my dad pushed me to the couch out of anger. My sister was crying and pleading. I could feel my tummy paining me so badly, and blood started coming out of my woman area. Then I fainted. Waking up in the hospital, I almost died. Why I didn't, I couldn't understand. Then I thought to myself, God gave me a second chance to take my revenge. Then I decided to teach my whole family except for my sister a lesson they would never forget. Like, share and comment for part 2.